Have you ever been in a crowd and the noise of voices, conversations, and laughter just create what we call white noise? Then out of nowhere, something catches your ear. Maybe a voice you recognize, a familiar cough, or a noise that isn't even human, like a siren. You're not certain that you've heard it, so you try and focus and listen to hear it again. It's noisy right now, isn't it? We're watching the Johns Hopkins coronavirus board to see how many new cases there are around the world. We're watching to see how many people have succumbed to the virus, and we're watching to see how many people have survived. It's noisy right now, isn't it? We're watching the stock market, holding our breath each time we peek at it. We're hearing the reports for unemployment numbers rise as manufacturing plants close, restaurants and bars close, along with many public schools, universities, and other retail businesses. We're hearing all the talking heads, economists, business experts, and CEOs give their take on where we are and where they think we'll be in 4 weeks, 2 months, 6 months, or a year. We're hearing the chatter of recession, worldwide recession. We're hearing the experts project how deep and how long this all will go. And some have spoken the D word, depression. We're hearing doctors and specialists give their assessment of the virus and what they project will be the swath of human suffering, pain, and death that it will take. It's noisy right now, and all of it seems like white noise. It's overwhelming to us. There was a man named Elijah. You can read about him in 1 Kings chapter 17, 18, and 19 in your Bible. He was a prophet of God in a time when God's people had quit listening to God. Their king had married a woman who had led them all astray. The truth is, the king wasn't listening to God before he got involved with his wife, this woman. So it's not all her fault. But let's just say that the people weren't tuned into God at all. So Elijah thought he would try and get their attention. He loved the people, and he loved God, and he believed in God, trusted God, and he knew that God would forgive them and welcome them back. He even had a heart for the king and his wife, as troubled as they were. So he challenges all the queen's priests, which represented the false gods that she and her king husband had introduced to the people. And he invited them to a duel. It wasn't your typical duel with backs to each other, pacing away so many steps, then turning around and shooting at each other with pistols. This was a sacrifice duel of the gods. So they agreed they would build a big altar, sacrifice a couple of cows, and ask their gods to devour the sacrifice with fire. Well, the day came. All the people gathered, and the event went off just as Elijah had planned. The false gods of the priests who represented the queen's belief system utterly failed. Elijah called out to the real and living God of Israel, and whoosh, total consumption by fire. The people fell on their faces and they cried out, "The Lord is God." Then at Elijah's command, they seized the priests of the false gods and put them to death. Victory! Well, not so fast. The king's wife wanted Elijah dead. She was furious. And what seemed to be a great revival turned into Elijah running for his life. Elijah heard the threats of the king and queen. Elijah heard the jeers of failure in his mind. Elijah heard the voices of defeat in his mind and felt them in his heart. It was noisy in Elijah's mind, and he wasn't listening. As the story unfolds, Elijah is simply depressed. He hides out in a cave, and all he wants to do is sleep and die. Noise can be overwhelming, but God gets his attention. He tells him to get up and go outside. Elijah does so, and the noise gets louder. A windstorm hits that blasts the rocks of the mountain. A virus hits that sickens thousands and kills many in its wake. Then the earthquake hits and shakes the mountain. A virus that shakes the world's economy. Then a fire came. A virus that seems to consume community, leaders and aid workers and first responders with the threat of its ferocity. All noise, and God wasn't in any of them. Then Elijah heard the sound of a whisper. That something in all the noise that stands out and causes you to focus and listen intently to hear it again. That whisper. Did I hear it? Yeah, it was God. God spoke, and Elijah found he wasn't alone in all the noise after all. And it's noisy out there, isn't it? Let's listen. God is speaking.